Yo, what's up? It's your boy Dion Modamuto. We're back with another video. Today we're watching SethTheProgrammer. Could Batman solve the Kira case? Death Note. Now, I was gonna watch the Could L catch the Joker? And I was like, that's pretty. I think so. Like the Joker tried, he does have his hiding spots and try to stay out of way, but the Joker don't be I don't read comic books, but like in the movies and shit and the shows, like I don't feel like he be like anywhere crazy like that to be like, oh, how you find me type shit. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't watch DC shit like that. But I think L could. So, but this is more interesting to me. This is a little older video, but could Batman solve the Kira case? I believe he could. You know what I'm saying? Batman, he's one of the smartest detectives, one of the best detectives of just comic book history.
Hello everyone, it is your host, SethTheProgrammer, and today we're going to be going over something a little different.
Love Death
Today
Note.
we're going to be going over Batman
right
and the world of Death Note, and whether or not he could solve the Kira case. I figured this would be interesting due to the fact that most people really don't talk about Batman as a detective or his deductive reasoning. They really only talk about how he can create weird plans to beat up supernatural beings and what he can do in a fight. And what better way to see how he stacks up as a detective than to throw him in one of the most popular cat and mouse mangas out there, Death Note. Also, if you do like this video or want more content like this, be sure to show that by hitting the like button and subscribing. It really helps gauge how much you guys really want these kind of videos. And like I said, if you want something unique, hit the button. You know, it really does show that this is something you want to see. The premise of the video will go a little something like this. We'll be taking Gotham City and Batman from DC Comics and putting them into the world of Death Note. Gotham being placed arbitrarily in America doesn't really matter, and Batman utterly replacing L. So that means the hit the button. You know, it really does show that this is something you want to see. The premise of the video will go a little something like this. We'll be taking Gotham City and Batman from DC Comics and putting them into the world of Death Note. Gotham being placed arbitrarily in America doesn't really matter, and Batman utterly replacing L. So that means the super detective L does not exist at the moment in this hypothetical, and will instead be replaced by Bruce Wayne taking on L's role per se. Batman will not get outside help and will have to use his raw deduction and skill to beat the case. The win conditions are as follows: convict Light and prove that he is Kira. And the losing conditions are as follows: arresting Light without legal evidence, which is the ability to keep him in jail, because Batman does have the problem of arresting criminals and not being able to keep them in jail because of the evidence he obtained. Killing Light without proving he is Kira first, or Light kills himself before Batman can prove he is Kira. It may sound strange, as if Light kills himself or Batman kills him, then it would seem that the world would be rid of Kira, right? However, L and many others from Whammy's house like Mello and B consider this a loss. This was shown in the BB Murders Case novel by Nisi.
Now I will say this. I will say it'll probably take longer for Batman to solve this for some reason. I don't know why. It feel like it will take him a little bit longer to solve this. You know what I'm saying?
Isin, where B, the backup / copy of L, has Naomi Misora go on a hunt for a killer, and by the end of it, B planned on killing himself and pretending to be one of the victims. B did this because if B were to kill himself, then L would never be able to prove who the killer actually was outside of speculation, and then B would have defeated L since L couldn't solve the case for good.
True.
The BB murder cases is proof for its quality of L's backstory by Oba himself. However, there is another novel called L Changed the World, and while this is an alternate continuity and somewhat takes L out of character, it has a similar theme going for it. In this continuity, L actually ends up almost securing the victory over Light, and Light can't find out L's name or convince Rem to kill him, and so Light kills himself in prison with the Death Note scrap in his watch, in which L considers this an utter defeat. Remember that this is, can Batman solve the case, not Light versus Batman death battle. And since this video is Batman taking L's place, we'll give him that similar rule. Even if Batman considers it a loss or not, the world of Death Note and its detectives do consider it a loss if those conditions are reached. Another rule is that Light Yagami must find out Batman's secret identity, Bruce Wayne, and write that in the Death Note. I've seen some question the idea that Batman once gripped the lasso of truth and he said that his name was Batman. However, this doesn't inherently have to mean Batman is his first identity or the identity the Death Note would want written inside of it. One, it could simply mean that Batman saying Batman is his name isn't a lie, and could mean he considers Batman an actual name of his as well as Bruce. Two, it could mean that he has resistance to things that try to force him to reveal his identity, and could convince even the lasso of truth that he's telling the truth even if he really isn't. This wouldn't be too far-fetched, as Batman has convinced people many times like Deathstroke that Bruce isn't his real identity. Three, it could mean that he himself believes that Batman is his true name or identity, meaning he wouldn't be lying by saying it. This could be done in a multitude of ways, by hypnotizing himself, psychological tricks, etc. Believe me when I say that none of this would be crazy for Batman. However, the Death Note doesn't care about detective codes or the mental state of the person. It wants the original.
So the Shinigami, what the Shinigami eyes or whatever it was. I know y'all probably y'all gonna kill me in the comments for that, but yeah. So it would say just Batman on top of his head, and when he'll die, or something like that. What it was? I forgot. It's been a while since I watched the show. I think So he wouldn't be able to figure out his identity, because if he in the Batman suit, he'll just think he's Batman. He'll just say Batman across his head. But that wouldn't work, because if you put Batman in the Death Note, would it work? If he's in the Batman costume? I don't know.
Original identity of the person, meaning it would want Bruce Wayne in this case. This is also shown in L Change the World, where it's unsure what would constitute L's real identity due to how many he appropriates himself with, yet L writes L Laliet, his original name, inside of the Death Note. Long story short, we're going to make Bruce Wayne the goal to avoid confusion and unnecessary contention. The version of Batman will be Batman Rebirth, as choosing a particular Batman could come off as cherry picking, and I don't want people screaming, "You chose that Batman only because he had that weakness, you biased weeb!" With that out of the way, let's begin.
With the weakness.
Obviously, our story would begin the way Death Note normally did. Light notices a notebook on the ground from his classroom window and decides to go pick it up after school. He decides to try it out and kills the Shinjuku killer, Otohara Dakuro, as normal, and from here he ends up regretfully killing Takuo Shibuimaru for being too aggressive with a girl, and this causes Light to snap and acknowledge that the world is a disgusting place that needs to change. Light would then go on to start writing names in his Death Note, making sure not to kill anybody too major, so that the police wouldn't cover up the killings or keep anything a secret. After killing many people and starting to gain a few conspiracy theories around the world and on the internet, Light himself declares, "I'm going to make the whole world know I'm here, that somebody is passing righteous judgment on them." Of course, Light was written this way so that, for one, the world would begin to change from his actions and acknowledge Kira, and two, so that people could catch his trail. After this, Interpol, aka the International Police, start to notice something is fishy. However, they have no leads and can't prove anything is happening outside of coincidence. This is normally where L would step in to organize the police around the world. However, in this timeline, a vigilante takes the scene to take it up by himself, Batman. From here, a matter of perspective comes into play. How would Batman go about convicting Kira? And I think the best way to do this is to actually compare how L operates to Batman.
Okay.
L is rather manipulative, maybe a sociopath if you will, and is willing to drop bodies and ruin lives to win a case. All throughout the series he's shown faking his emotions, even in scenes where everyone is freaking out. You'll notice L is never drawn with a genuine sweat mark on his face, showing that he's not actually surprised or concerned. And this was done deliberately by Obata to show L's actual mental state. And Oba even goes as far as to say L is slightly evil in How to Read, which is showcased by L trying to even manipulate Light by calling him his friend when he actually despises him. Or how he used Lindell Taylor's body as a Death Note sponge to draw out Kira and then laugh at him publicly to challenge him for the spot of top mind in the world. Or as Nier calls it, the Battle of Pride. The question then becomes, would Batman do anything like this? And the answer is yes, he could, but he would do it in a way more dominant format, more mature as well. Although he probably wouldn't sacrifice criminals since it's not necessary. He's seeking evidence for himself to convict Light, and then looking to prove that Kira exists to the police later to keep him in jail. Not the other way around like L did. Batman would more than likely travel to Japan immediately, as even L figured Kira was in Japan even before Lindell Taylor died. You may then be asking, what's to say Batman would figure this out just because L did? And the answer is quite a simple gauge of raw intelligence. L is an insane prodigy, considered one of the greatest minds on Earth in Death Note How to Read and the greatest detective on the planet. By just 8 years old, he was smart enough to stop World War III, and by the time he was a young adult and B was challenging him, Mello states his ability as that of 5 ordinary investigative bureaus and 7 intelligence agencies. As a reminder, Einan Celeste Colley, who has an estimated IQ of 263, gave his first public lecture at the age of 6, and at 7 years and 1 month of age, he had passed the GCSE chemistry and studied chemistry at the tertiary level in Singapore Polytechnic a year later.
Damn.
And at 9, he was able to recite pi to 518 decimal places and can remember the periodic table. In this case, however, at 8 years old, L had more ability than more than likely any detective on the planet, and he was the one who actually figured out and stopped the bombings that would have caused World War III, which would then inspire Watsuri to create Whammy's house. This means L's IQ as an 8-year-old child is easily in the 250 through 300 IQ range by our real life standards, and as an adult it could be even more astronomical, as Mello states that L gets more intelligent as he gets older. Batman is a bit more ludicrous and out there in comparison. For example, Batman was more accurately able to predict when Horsepex would fire, and even when a time-traveling robot would turn up and appear, when in both instances Brainiac couldn't. For those that don't know, Brainiac is a 12th level intellect, with a 6th level intellect rivaling that of all of humanity combined. Meaning Batman had better deduction than a being who was outside of human comprehension, whereas L is rivaling numerous bureaus put together and is debatably peak human intelligence, give or take. Although even then, L doesn't have a max intelligence stat in Death Note How to Read, but a Shinigami by the name of Nu, Shinigami having intelligence similar to scale as humans, has maxed out intelligence. So in all actuality, yes, Batman is far more qualified to make the deduction that Light is in Japan than L, or even all of humanity put together even is. But of course, the hunt isn't totally one-sided. Out of all of Batman's perks, he has his fair set of weaknesses here. The main one being that it's not actually all that hard to truly figure out who he is, especially if you don't actually care about who dies for you to find out. Now, while many characters have tried exposing Bruce's identity and Batman has squirmed his way out of it most times, Light would not worry about exposing or confirming Bruce's identity. He pressed the switch the second he figured that Bruce had the qualifications of Batman. For Batman, you mainly just have to figure out A, he does most of his work in Gotham and therefore more than likely lives in Gotham. B, is in great shape and is peak human if not greater, therefore he's likely younger. C, he can afford and create insane levels of tech, therefore he must be richer and more intelligent.
True.
These basic thoughts that even most people in the comments section would come up with just scream Bruce Wayne, a conveniently young, wealthy American playboy philanthropist and owner of Wayne Enterprises. Of course, you could say that maybe he's hired by the government or something, however, he wouldn't be hard to track even then, and you could still come on to Bruce Wayne and then just investigate him from there. Although, like I said, Light would probably just kill Bruce anyway, just like he did Lindell Taylor. The Grim Knight, who is basically Batman, who instead of doing what he did normally when his parents died, shot the muggers that killed them, is considered the most intelligent of the Dark Knights, even including the Batman who laughs, whom the Grim Knight tricks into not destroying everything by saying his plan to make things too easy and uninteresting, blah blah blah. And the Batman who laughs is a being who, despite being a normal human with prep, is so insane that he can kill powerful beings that could easily solo the human race.
Damn.
However, in this world, the Grim Knight variant is basically Batman on steroids and will even kill criminals. The Commissioner Gordon of that reality doesn't like this though, and he dedicates himself to figuring out Batman's identity, and he does. Gordon then hunts him down, beats the shit out of him, strips Wayne Industries and all of its assets, then throws him in jail. So, as you can see, imagine Batman has god tier level deduction and stats, but it's not terribly hard to figure out who he is yourself, and many people have actually done so, even with his most intelligent versions. From here, it's clear that Light could more than likely deduce Batman's identity, but now the question is, would he try to? Now we'll question the skills and initiative of Batman and take his skills to the fullest. For one, Batman's approach would be much different than L's. Whereas L sees Light as a challenge in his battle of pride and his detective code, Batman would simply see Light as a criminal. This is important because L tries his best to goad Light into acting and challenge him directly on air, announcing himself as an enemy immediately, but Batman doesn't necessarily have to announce himself as an enemy, if announce himself at all. And while Batman is probably extremely popular in Gotham and his name would definitely reach the internet, it's not as if Light would view him as an enemy. He'd view him as someone who loved true justice, a vigilante who wasn't scared to break the law to protect the world, similar to him. Also, Light didn't even know about L until L rubbed his name in his face on air, even though his father was the chief of police and all of Interpol pretty much knows who L is, casting a lot of doubt on Light immediately knowing of Batman anyway. Although even if he did, since Batman has wild superhuman feats, it doesn't mean Light would target him. This may seem like a disadvantage for Batman actually, because this is how L originally proved Light was in the Kanto region of Japan. However, like I said before, this would not be needed to actually deduce he was there. It's only really needed to challenge and make Light angry, as well as prove it to the public off the bat, which Batman doesn't need to do, since Bruce doesn't need Interpol or local police to help him. This is because the Shinjuku killer was only broadcasted in Japanese media, which L calls out later, and then simply attempts to scan Japan, starting out with Kanto, its most populous region. Batman would easily make a similar, if not greater, deduction. Light unfortunately has a few weaknesses as well that pan themselves out through the series that Oba left in to let L catch on to Kira. The first big one is the fact that Light originally killed people during his off hours from school, which immediately gave away the fact that he was a student, as well as the Shinjuku mistake he made earlier, which he did not knowing that the Death Note would even work to begin with. This would easily have Batman on the hunt through Japan, and he'd more than likely be scouring the schools of Kanto, Japan first, similar to L. L also calls out that the suspect is more than likely highly intelligent due to his methodical and coordinated killings of others. If the police ever caught on that Kira was killing criminals and decided to censor information, which is likely, and in fact the Japanese task force suggested it to L numerous times, then Light would have to start killing the innocent or use the Japanese police database to find out criminals' names, which Light pretty much already did. This gives Batman even more clue on who Light is, an intelligent school student from Japan with access to private police records. There would only be a few suspects from here: Karayoshi Kudamura's daughter, Sayu Yagami, and Light Yagami mainly. However, even if police records were never accessed, Batman could still find Light even if only using the schools as a reference, because Batman would only have to meet or see Light to actually know it was him for the most part. Examples of this being how when Batman met Thunderbolt and knew he was a fifth dimensional imp right off the bat, where I can read your pulse and tell what you think of others simply by looking at you. Whoa. So if Batman ever did get in contact with Light Yagami, it's pretty much game over. Light Yagami would have one of his stereotypical dramatic internal Death Note monologues, and Batman would read it all like a book, as well as being able to tell when he's feigning ignorance. It'd be similar to how L gave the police department and the suspects all his deductive reasoning test and only Light fit the bill, except on steroids. It might be even worse if you consider the fact that Batman might be able to see Ryuk as well, as he was able to tell Martian Manhunter was present simply by his breathing, and can register these insanely complex beings no problem. He was also able to see Dead Man, who was literally a dead man who could possess living people, kind of like a ghost. In post-crisis, he can even tell when magic or supernatural things have been used in a proximity, making Light even more likely. If that isn't convincing, realize that the League of Shadows has erased Batman's memories up to 3 times, and the League of Shadows is a group of secret wizards that have remained undiscovered for thousands of years, that even give Batman fake memories once he finds them, so he'll stop coming back, and then he finds them again anyway with fake memories. In comparison, an egotistical and clumsily starting out Light Yagami is child's play to find. From here, Bruce has 2 options: either A, introduce himself as Batman, or B, act like Light wasn't a big deal and then stalked him to learn more later. In option A, Bruce would introduce himself as Batman and call Light out for being Kira. However, his strategy here would be to convince Light that he works for justice and supports Kira. With Light unable to do anything to Batman, Batman can then sway Light's opinion towards him and possibly get him to admit everything. Batman did this before with Lex Luthor when he convinces him to show him his secret lab, saying he'll help him in exchange. Even if Light doesn't agree to the alliance, Batman will be able to tell if Light is lying or wishes him harm by simply looking at him, as I said before, which will simply have Batman go to Plan B.
Right.
In Plan B, Batman would stalk Light, similar to Ray Pember. However, the difference between Ray and Bruce is that if Light starts whispering to Ryuk, thinking Bruce is too far away for him to hear, he'd actually hear everything he was saying. As Batman is often credited, no sounds escape him and no movement is hidden. He'd realize that there was something with him even if he couldn't see the Shinigami. If Batman realized Light was hostile, he may even subdue him there and put him immediately into questioning, which from there he would actually hypnotize Light to tell him the truth like he did to Penguin before.
Oh shit.
From here, all Batman would have to do is convince Soichiro to let Batman search his son's room, or go in there on his own merits after overhearing Light speak, or maybe convincing him that he was a good guy and on his side. He'd only ask Soichiro if he wanted to arrest Light legally, but he could probably do it either way, and yes, Soichiro would more than likely listen to Batman. Soichiro cares more about the law than his own son in the end, and this is displayed in all novels and the main series. If Batman ever did enter Light's room, he'd be able to immediately tell if anything was a trap or rigged, as there has been instances where he's looked at a completely ordinary looking doorknob and could tell it was a trap. This means the chances of him discovering Light's secret notebook stash and its trap is very high, as well as the fact that he's probably overheard Light talking about it and shopping for its components anyway. This alongside the fact that Batman has insane forensic skills that could even catch criminals by a simple printer streak on a printed map, or the exact actions a car took in its content/color based off of a collision it had, means Batman probably has over a 99% chance of getting Light's notebook or figuring out what he's doing with it and where it is. He's simply too powerful for a pretty much normal smart guy like Light to get around. And it makes sense. DC characters a lot of the time are written to be admirable rather than fully relatable.
Right.
Whereas in this case, Light and Death Note are kind of written to allow the characters to catch on to each other. They have very exposed weaknesses, and whereas it doesn't have to be so inherent with Batman. After that, he explains all the evidence he got and how his son's prints were all over the notebook, and could even show the trap he had in his room and explain how the Death Note works and how Light operated, and it would be good game. Even if you had Batman come for Light after the death of L and he had Misa helping him, the results would not be much different. I say Misa helping because Oba stated that Light would never trade for the Shinigami eyes and would rather kill himself in prison than get them. In this case, the only threat to Batman is Misa, however he has many contingencies against her. For one, Batman wears a mask under his normal mask a lot of the time, meaning even if Misa took off Batman's mask she wouldn't see his name. And even if she did somehow see his name, using the "if they see your eyes, they can see your name" rule, and Batman noticed hostile intent and that she was up to trying to kill him, he'd more than likely subdue her similar to before. It'd also be way easier for Batman to follow L's footsteps in the Light's direction than before, just like with Nier and Mello, making this a much faster GG. This is of course giving Batman a somewhat more realistic approach based on Death Note's established lore. However, in all honesty, due to his feats versus Lex Luthor, Darkseid, Brainiac, and so on, this may be a far greater stomp than I'm letting on it, but this is just an easy way to explain it, and if I were to give him Death Note stats like the How to Read did, it'd probably be a little something like this. Yeah, but pretty broken. It's a little too strong to be here. So in the end, Batman would more than likely slap Light like he was a filler villain. Other than that, I know some people will have some comments, so I'll address them here real quick. Doesn't Batman not believe in magic? In New 52, he doesn't, and in fact, he gets Superman, Wonder Woman, and Cyborg killed because of it. Although in Post-Crisis and Rebirth, he does, and could even tell when magic has been used in an area. Question 2. Why not just have Batman use the Mobius chair? I'd rather not bring this up ever. For one, not only is this outside help, but it makes me develop a disease just thinking about how dumb Batman was in this thing. As an example, he asks the chair who the Joker is, and the chair responds, "There are 3 Jokers." So Batman just goes, "Huh?" and gets out of the chair to figure out who they are instead of You know, just asking the chair who the three were. Imagine if you got
fuck?
the chair and said, "Who is Kira?" And the chair responded, "There are 2 Kiras." And Batman just got super anxious and went out to look for them instead of asking the chair again. Question 3. Why do you think Batman wouldn't use the police? I say this because he doesn't actually need them. However, if it kind of isn't his character if he were to use them, I suppose, such as when he kept sending Chronovores after Superman to teach him about teamwork and epically failing. But he doesn't really need them, like I said. If he really needed police record, he could obtain them without Interpol or the Japanese police. Anyways, I hope you guys all enjoyed. If you want more Death Note or even Batman related content, show me that by hitting this video with a like or a sub. Like I said before, it really gives a number to how much you...
I thought that would take a little longer to do it, but from what he said it'll take him. It wouldn't take him. It seemed like it wouldn't take him that long and shit. So it would have. I ain't know. That'll be a fire show. They should probably adapt that for real. Shout out to SethTheProgrammer. I love Death Note, Batman. Yeah, man. Anyway, you like my video. If you like the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And I'll catch you next time. Peace.